When humanity's underdog wrestler steps into the ring against a four-armed bully powerhouse, the galaxy expects an easy win, but what unfolds is a brutal, adrenaline-fueled battle that defies all odds and leaves over 1 trillion viewers breathless. This isn't just a fight. It's the moment humanity proves it belongs among the stars. Now start interesting story. Tyson had never heard a louder crowd in his career. It struck his locker room like an earthquake, the muffled screaming of over 1 million life forms from all across the galaxy, vibrating through the stadium and matching his rapidly beating heart, to the point where Tyson feared the building might collapse from the tremors at any point, and none of them were cheering for him. Tyson didn't let it bother him, though. He signed up for this match knowing full well the crowd wouldn't care about him. After all, nobody in the galaxy believed a human could win this bout. When Earth first received news of alien life, everyone predicted a myriad of things that could arise from cultural exchange. Advances in medicine, engineering, and art were considered inevitable, dazzling any forward-thinking individuals with all the possibilities. Wrestling, however, was the last thing on anyone's mind. Very few people on Earth thought the sport would survive the next decade, let alone it becoming the thing that made humanity stand out. This came as a shock to many, but it really shouldn't have surprised anyone. People, regardless of their species, always love a good fight. No one knew this better than Vincent McMillar, the oldest living human. He had been in the wrestling business for over 200 years now, kept alive by mechanical augments, intense daily exercises, and ruthless aggression in every facet of life. As soon as the Galactic Federation made contact with humanity, McMillar only had one goal in mind: to expand his wrestling empire beyond the confines of the solar system. Unfortunately, his first attempt at promoting this event was met by widespread ridicule, especially on Earth. Humans just weren't considered suited for wrestling by the galactic community. Not when compared to some of the other species that were practically built for fighting. One culture in particular, the Puli, had a complete monopoly on combat sports due to this very reason. The average height of their athletes towered over most folk, some being close to 8 feet tall, and they all had 4 muscular arms, each with hands strong enough to crush a person's skull. McMillar, of course, took it upon himself to goad the bullies into a fight, which was easy considering how prideful they tended to be. He didn't care that it made the rest of humanity look like obnoxious idiots. In fact, he counted on it. The only thing that mattered to him was that, regardless of the result, aliens throughout the Milky Way would now buy a pay-per-view just to see a human get beaten up. The world champion back home refused to step into the ring with a bully, citing his contract was only valid on Earth, and the bullies weren't going to fight anywhere other than their home turf. So McMillar was forced to find someone else to be humanity's representative, setting up a tournament to determine the challenger. Tyson fought his way through a 6-month gauntlet and won the tournament, surpassing hundreds of other wrestlers for the chance to make history. Many people, including his friends and family, begged him not to take on the challenge. Tyson ignored them. He knew they meant well, but their concern only served to demoralize him. This was the biggest opportunity of his life. Was it that hard to believe in him? Either way, his mind was set on giving it his all, no matter what. As Tyson walked down the ramp, however, his sense of confidence quickly eroded. He had never been in a bigger arena, blinded by the array of lights and pyrotechnics. It felt like he had been swallowed into the belly of a beast, filled to the brim with over 1 million unfamiliar beings of varying morphology. Some were huge with rolling tentacles, others tiny and horned. Some were amorphous blobs composed entirely of yellow slime, while others were vaguely humanoid, with 4 limbs and a single head. The only thing this crowd had in common was their silent murmurs as Tyson entered the ring. At least they weren't booing. Tyson couldn't let their tepid reaction get to his head. The crowd wasn't enthused by him, but millions of humans were currently watching the broadcast on Earth, so he had to put on a strong face, if only for them. And then Girk Wu Lugan, the bully champion, walked onto the stage. The entire arena erupted with cheers. Tyson almost lost his balance as the shockwave swept over him. To say they loved the champion would be an understatement. Girk raised his forearms, each holding a championship belt, and let out a guttural shout before walking down the ramp, causing the crowd to grow even wilder. The alien was huge, with purple skin, green teeth, and 3 red eyes. Tyson himself was 6'4", weighing 250 pounds of lean muscle, and he still felt small when compared to his massive opponent. For a brief moment, the human wondered if this was such a good idea after all. The bell hadn't rung yet. There was still time to back away. His growing anxiety may be trying to save him from what was to come. "No," muttered Tyson, shaking away his doubts. He always felt nervous before a big match, and this time was no different. The moment it changed was the moment he retired. By the time Girk entered the ring and walked from corner to corner in an effort to stir up the crowd, Tyson had steeled his resolve. Wrestling was his life. He sacrificed too much in order to get here. If this fight was the end of him, then it would be one worth remembering. Girk handed over his championship belts to the referee, a significantly smaller alien with a black and white-striped shirt, who then went on to explain the rules to the audience. They were obvious to Tyson, and the bullies had similar stipulations in their own sports, so it wasn't anything too foreign for everyone involved, but it was still good to clear them up for the sake of avoiding confusion. The following contest is scheduled for one fall with a 30-minute time limit, announced the referee through a microphone. In order to win, both shoulders have to be pinned to the mat by the other until a count of 3, unless one of you, he glanced at Tyson, chooses to tap out in a submission or goes unconscious. Tyson frowned. "Tell it to him, not me," Girk bellowed a deep laugh. "It's for your safety, dumbass, not mine." "Should either of you step out of the ring," continued the referee, "you'll have until the count of 10 to get back inside or be disqualified. Closed fist strikes are illegal, but open hand chops and elbows are okay. Blows to the groin aren't allowed either. If you corner your opponent or one of you uses the ropes during a hold, you'll have until the count of 5 to release your opponent." "Everything clear?" Tyson nodded. The neural implant he received translated everything perfectly. He almost forgot they weren't speaking the same language. "Ring the damn bell!" shouted Girk, hunching forward with a psychotic grin. "It won't make a difference either way. I want a clean fight, all right?" warned the referee. "No shenanigans, shake hands, and let's get it on." Tyson offered his hand, only for Girk to slap it away and flex his muscles at the crowd, causing them to cheer in a frenzy. Tyson sighed. Whatever happened to sportsmanship? The referee ignored the disrespect and motioned at the timekeeper for the match to begin. As soon as the bell rang, the two fighters circled around the ring, studying each other's range for a tense minute. They then grappled face to face, locking arms. Tyson quickly realized he made a big mistake, though. Girk still had 2 free arms, allowing him to strike with his elbows while keeping a tight grip. Each attack had the force of an elephant behind it. Tyson could barely stay upright after enduring 3 of them, and the audience celebrated louder with each blow. Before the 4th one made contact, Tyson rolled backwards, using Girk's own momentum to throw him off balance. Audible gasps echoed throughout the arena. The mere act of knocking Girk off his feet had surprised everyone in attendance. Tyson quickly spun over the grounded bully, twisting his arms into an impromptu hold. The 4 appendages were now a weakness for Girk, too cumbersome to untangle himself. Tyson applied more pressure. Girk screamed in pain. Tyson maintained his grip, leaning more into the submission. This might be enough to outright win. Girk forced himself free through sheer strength. Tyson was flung through the air after that feat, landing on the other side of the ring. Girk had to take a second to regain his bearing, though. The bully couldn't believe what had happened. Neither could the crowd. Although Girk broke the hold, he clearly wounded his joints in the process, nursing the damage with a snarl. Tyson stood up as fast as possible, bounced off the ropes to gain speed, and threw himself at his opponent, hoping to tackle him down. Girk, however, caught him in the middle of it. Tyson widened his eyes as the bully raised him up for everyone to see. His strength was literally otherworldly. Tyson had never faced someone that could lift him so easily. Girk paraded around the ring with Tyson over his head, basking in the cheering of the crowd. They all assumed the previous exchange had been a fluke. The natural order was established. Again. Tyson took advantage of Girk's boasting, shifting his weight into a front facelock, then spinning around to drive the bully's face into the mat. The impact came with a deafening thud, quieting everyone who watched. Tyson then covered Girk as fast as possible. "One!" shouted the referee, hitting the mat with the palm of his hand. Girk kicked out before the count of 2, pushing Tyson away a few feet. The bully was just too strong to go down like that. Tyson swelled with determination, though. It hadn't been a fluke. His experience and skill were shining through. He just needed to hit him harder next time. Some people in the crowd started to appreciate him, clapping politely at his maneuver. "Okay, lil fella." Girk stood up, scowling. "You had your fun, but I'm breaking you now," Tyson smirked. "Shut the hell up and bring it." Girk barreled forward at full speed, extending his 2 right arms for a double lariat. Tyson ducked under the attack, but Girk instantly bounced off the ropes ahead, turning around in a fluid motion and repeating his charge. The bully's speed caught Tyson off guard. He moved as if he was 10 times lighter than he really was. Tyson couldn't avoid the lariat this time. It smacked him at full force, sending him over the top rope. Tyson landed outside the ring at an awkward angle. His vision grew blurry as he recovered. The referee started the 10 count. Girk jumped out of the ring, resetting it. He then lifted the human into a bear hug, squeezing the life out off him, and rammed his back into the barricade that separated them from the fans. Tyson almost lost consciousness after feeling a horrible jolt down his spine. Girk wasn't done, though. He continued ramming Tyson into every hard surface nearby, including the corner of the ring apron, the steel steps, and the barricade again for good measure. Tyson crumpled after Girk released him, unresponsive. "5!" shouted the referee. Girk returned to the ring. 6. Tyson could barely hear the referee's count. It sounded like a distant echo, as if his soul was slowly leaving his body and moving on to the next life. 7. Girk raised his hands in the middle of the ring, gloating over his inevitable victory. Something strange happened as he did that, though. For the first time in the match, the crowd started booing him. They didn't want a count-out victory. They wanted a clean finish. Girk squinted his 3 eyes, confused. He wasn't used to that type of reaction. Tyson grabbed the edge of the barricade, slowly pulling himself up. 8. Tyson limped his way to ring, only for his knees to buckle under the strain, falling on his face. A few spectators behind the barricade urged him to get up. 9. Tyson forced himself upright, sliding into the ring with a sudden burst of strength. He barely made it. Girk only noticed it a few seconds later, after the referee grew quiet without reaching 10. Unfortunately, Tyson was too weakened to take advantage of the distraction. Girk quickly ran over to Tyson, threw him against the corner, and proceeded to pummel him with a flurry of elbows. 1, 2, 3, break it up, Girk! Come on! Fuck off, replied the bully, shoving away the referee. I have until 5. Tyson hung onto the ropes, barely capable of standing up. He stumbled out of the corner while Girk argued with the referee, only for the bully to notice and hurl him into another corner a few seconds later. Tyson then elbowed Girk in the face, completely out of instinct, but the alien endured the blow with ease, answering back with a kick to the stomach. Tyson fell on his rear, gasping for air. Girk proceeded to stomp him in the chest over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Girk walked away to stop the count, giving Tyson a few seconds to breathe while the referee chastised the alien, who then went back to resume his assault. Tyson grabbed the bully's foot to stop him. Girk pulled away, but Tyson refused to let go, forcing him to lift the human with the one leg and spin around to send him flying. Tyson sprung up as fast as he could. For some reason, Girk didn't follow through. It was then, however, that the bully started laughing, and Tyson noticed something worrying had occurred. The referee was knocked out. Girk had hit him while flinging Tyson away. He did it with enough plausible deniability that he could pretend it was an accident, but his eerie smile made that seem unlikely. Tyson felt a foreboding chill as the alien stepped forward, cracking his 4 sets of knuckles. There wasn't a way to enforce the rules anymore. This had now turned into a death match. "We have to stop this," said Paul, cringing at the violence. Vincent McMillan munched on his steak wrap, grunting. Paul wasn't sure if that was a yes or no. Vincent had a bad habit of never explaining himself. This really shouldn't be up for discussion, though. With the referee incapacitated, nothing would stop the bully from going too far. He was already using everything in his arsenal to destroy Tyson. Closed fists, eye pokes, kicks to the groin. Nothing was beneath him. To make matters worse, Tyson refused to do the same. He stuck to conventional wrestling maneuvers and put up a valiant effort which, while endearing him to the crowd, left him at a severe disadvantage against his opponent. Paul wanted it declared a no contest, or throw in the towel. But he and Vincent were in a VIP skybox a great distance away from the fight, too far to reach the ring before the worst could happen. Even then, he wasn't sure if Girk could be stopped. The alien hadn't tried to pin Tyson even once during the match. His objective wasn't to simply win. He wanted to make Tyson surrender, humiliate him. A message for anyone that dared question bully supremacy in combat sports. It would be hard to find someone willing to get in his way. Vincent needed to call the bully commissioner and stop this madness. But the old man seemed more concerned with finishing his steak wrap than the safety of his fighter. Eventually, after swallowing the last of his food, he said, "Nah, it's fine. Are you blind?" Paul blinked a few times, stupefied. This was a horrible idea from the start. Vincent shrugged him off. "Just sit back and enjoy the show." Paul sunk back into the leather chair, clasping his hands. Tyson had been busted open by a series of illegal punches. Blood trickled out of his forehead at an alarming rate, veiling his face with a crimson mask. He kept getting up after every stumble, however, fighting back with more spirit every time he rose. Girk became increasingly exasperated by the human's persistence. The mere fact that Tyson hadn't given up was insulting to him. Girk was being pushed to the point of no return. Paul stared pointedly at Vincent and said, "You realize that if he dies, we're both doomed, right? Not only will we have embarrassed
humanity on a galactic scale and sacrificed a young athlete's life, but everyone on Earth will hate us for arranging this fight. The company will go bankrupt." "Meh," said Vincent, "and nothing else." Paul rubbed his temples. He wanted to
blame this cold-hearted callousness on Vincent's machine parts, but the truth was, he had been this uncaring long before he got augmented. Paul couldn't criticize him, though. As head of talent relations, he was just as complicit as the old man. The only difference seemed to be that Vincent didn't feel any remorse for his actions. In a way, he was more honest with himself than Paul, who didn't mind profiting from this until seeing the carnage. "You hear that?" said Vincent. Paul raised an ear. "Tyson! Tyson! Tyson!" It was the crowd. Over 1 million people screaming off the top of their lungs, or the alien equivalent of lungs, all begging for Tyson to keep fighting. They loved him now. Everyone wanted him to win. Vincent made a crooked smile, flickering his red cybernetic eye. "Do you really think this needs to be stopped?" Paul looked at the ring. Tyson's blood had stained a big part of the canvas. It was a miracle he hadn't fainted yet. The young man fought with more intensity than ever before, fueled by the crowd's chanting. But Girk had no problem smacking him down every single time he got up, earning a chorus of boos with every rebuttal. He was toying with Tyson, nothing more. Paul then said, "Yes, I do. Having fans cheer for you means nothing if you're not alive to enjoy it." "Bah," grumbled Vincent. "You don't get it, do you? That kid went out there to prove something, and he's doing it. Stopping this match before it reaches its conclusion would be 1,000 times more embarrassing than merely losing, both for Tyson and humanity as a whole. Let it play out. Besides, he pointed at the action, it's too late now. Paul sighed. Vincent was right. The referee had slowly regained consciousness while all this happened. He seemed a little dazed, but continued officiating the match as if nothing illegal had taken place. Girk frowned at having to follow the rules again. Paul didn't think it mattered anymore. Most of the damage had already been done. Girk locked Tyson in a painful submission move, grabbing his wrists and ankles with all four of his limbs and pulling him apart with all his might. His objective was clear. He wanted to dismember Tyson in front of everyone, or rip him in half. Trying. Paul stood up and ordered himself a glass of whiskey at the nearby replicator. He couldn't bear to watch anymore. It was obvious Tyson would die before giving up. Tyson was pretty sure something broke inside his body. He wasn't sure what it was, though. The overwhelming pain on every limb made it too hard to focus on anything specific. Girk had applied a submission maneuver that Tyson had never faced before. It made sense. Bullies had access to many unique holds thanks to their forearms and incredible strength. Tyson just didn't know how to free himself, or if there even was a way to do so. Girk had spread him out like a dissected frog, showing him off to the jeering crowd. The alien genuinely thought this would get them to cheer for him again. But it only had the opposite effect, which forced the bully to take out his frustration by pulling even harder. Tyson's awareness began to slip away. He was already half blind due to the blood pouring down his face. The bright lights of the arena and the noise of the crowd blended together as he grew senseless, forming a surreal hellscape straight out of a nightmare. Tyson started questioning if any of this was even real. He did get hit in the head a lot for a living. It was part of the job. Maybe this was all an elaborate coma from taking too many bumps. For most of his life, everyone close to him regarded him as kind of a dumbass. A well-meaning one, but a dumbass nonetheless. Even his parents did it. Tyson couldn't begrudge them for it. That was exactly what he was. This entire predicament came about from a deluded sense of optimism that only an idiot would follow. As a young boy, he loved watching wrestlers get into dangerous situations and fight their way to victory. It instilled in him a sense of hope that fueled him during his darkest moments. The faint belief that, if he fought hard enough, if he trained more than his peers, if he simply cared more than anyone, nothing could stop him from achieving his goals. For the first time in his life, though, Tyson was forced to admit he may have been wrong about everything. It was painful to confront, more hurtful than the submission itself, but the path he took had only led him into the unbreakable clutches of Girk. Who could look up to that? When Tyson initially declared he would become a wrestler, his own father gave him a disappointed look that broke his young heart. He never forgot that face. It haunted him more than he cared to admit. A mixture of pity, bitterness, and disgust that made him feel like an alien in his own home. Even after Tyson garnered some success, not much but enough to consistently feed himself, his family eagerly waited for the day he would finally quit. They never believed in him. Hell, they hadn't even been to one of his matches. This resentment against hope wasn't unique to those he loved. It festered in the collective psyche of humanity and only got worse after the Federation established contact with Earth. Having a low opinion of humans was already a popular stance long before the aliens made first contact. But now, with the vastness of the galaxy unlocked for everyone to explore, life on Earth had never felt more vapid and insignificant. People acted like their inferiority had been objectively proven. Some even gladly accepted it. As if jaded nihilism or submissiveness was a better alternative than rising to the challenge, even in the face of defeat. Tyson became a wrestler to oppose that very notion. He wanted to instill in people the same inner strength he gained from watching his favorite heroes in the ring. The will to keep fighting no matter how grim everything became. And so, as Girk attempted to rip apart all his limbs, Tyson refused to quit. At a certain point, even the referee begged him to give up. There just wasn't a way to escape it. Tyson, had never felt more tempted in his life. Nobody could fault him for surrendering. He was only human, right? No, fuck that. Only human? Who the hell decided that wasn't enough? Tyson! The crowd hadn't given up on him. Why should he? Tyson would see this through to the very end. Stop! Cried out Girk, pleading with the audience. Stop it! He's weak, puny, a loser! Can't you see? In that very moment, for a fraction of a second, the bully loosened his grip, focusing more on the crowd's reaction than the match itself. Tyson seized the opportunity, slipping out of his submission. The arena exploded in a deafening roar. Girk slacked his jaw in surprise, then lunged after him with a guttural shout. Tyson spun around him and grabbed his waist in a tight hold. Girk whipped back his head to hit Tyson's nose. It didn't faze him. Tyson absorbed the blow and continued to lift the bully off his feet, slamming him backwards into the mat. He wasn't finished, though. Tyson proceeded to suplex Girk 4 more times before going for a cover. 1, said the referee. 2, shouted along the crowd. Girk kicked out before 3. People throughout the arena covered their mouths, shocked. Girk was an unstoppable beast. It didn't matter, though. As the bully rose to his feet, Tyson gained momentum by bouncing off the ropes and kneed him square in the jaw, putting him down again. 1, 2, kick out. Tyson didn't let that discourage him. Girk seemed more weakened than ever before. He had accumulated too much damage to just shrug it off, struggling to stand. Unfortunately, Tyson slowly felt the burst of adrenaline leave his body. He too needed to catch his breath. 10 minutes remaining, said the timekeeper through the speakers. That caught Tyson by surprise. He had forgotten about the time limit. Girk narrowed his eyes with sudden intensity. They both knew. It needed to end now. The two fighters ran against each other, colliding in the middle of the ring with great force. Neither fell. Girk struck with an elbow, and Tyson answered in kind. They then proceeded to trade blows without either giving an inch. When it became clear they were at a standstill, Girk spat in Tyson's face, blinding him. Nobody in the crowd enjoyed that. Their outrage felt like it could turn into a riot at any moment. Girk immediately took advantage of Tyson's disorientation, lifting the human until he was atop his shoulders before slamming him back onto the ground. Tyson lost his breath upon receiving the power bomb. The impact was so great that his neural implant suffered a malfunction, changing the shouts in the arena into an incomprehensible mess for a very long second. And then, for the first time in the match, Girk went for a cover, desperate to win. 1, 2. Tyson barely kicked out. The spectators went nuts, jumping out of their seats. They all thought that was it. Girk took a moment to compose himself, looking at the referee in disbelief. He couldn't hide his amazement. Tyson crawled towards the ropes, pulling himself upright, but Girk quickly interfered, hoping to powerbomb him again. Tyson didn't let him, though. As the bully lifted him, Tyson wrapped his legs around his opponent's head and dragged him down with a spin, throwing him against the ring post. Girk collided with the metal head first and stumbled backwards, landing flat on his back. To everyone's surprise, Tyson didn't go for a pin. Instead, he grabbed the bully's arms, twisted them around, and locked him into the same submission from the start of the match. Girk couldn't brute force his way out. Not only did he lack the strength to do it again, but Tyson had learned from his first time applying it, making sure there weren't any openings. The bully teared up, wailing in pain. His confidence had taken a severe blow. He seemed on the verge of tapping out. Tyson didn't relent, screaming with resolve. Girk started rocking his body back and forth, inching his way to the ropes. It was his only chance to break the hold. Tyson reeled him back. Girk kept struggling. His feet were less than an inch from touching the rope. 5 minutes remaining, announced the timekeeper. Tyson put everything he had into the submission. He wouldn't let go for anything in the world. With a final burst of energy, Girk snapped one of his arms with a loud crack, giving him just enough length to reach the rope. The referee quickly intervened, counting. Tyson let go as soon as it happened. He didn't want to abuse the rules like his opponent. Girk slid out of the ring, inspecting his broken arm. He took his sweet time assessing the damage. The referee started the 10 count. Girk waited until 8 before returning to the ring. Tyson hunched into the standard wrestling position, ready to finish this. Girk glared at the human, mirroring his stance, only to exit the ring again. Tyson frowned. The bully's intent became clear. He just wanted to run out the clock. People showered him in boos, but Girk didn't seem to care anymore. "Come on," shouted Tyson, beckoning him. "That all you got?" Girk didn't fall for the bait, pacing around the ring with a scowl. Referee started counting again. Tyson needed to do something quick. Girk wasn't going to engage him directly again. That much was obvious. The bully simply didn't want to lose. "Fine," said Tyson, sprinting across the ring. He dived through ropes like a human projectile, crashing at full speed against an unsuspecting Girk. The two fighters went down after that. Tyson was the first to his feet, throwing the disoriented bully back into the ring. Girk tried to fight back, but his broken arm prevented him from mounting an offense. Tyson then kneed him in the face repeatedly, until shattering his teeth, allowing the human to cover him for a pin. 1. Tyson closed his eyes, exhausted. This was the longest pinfall of his life. From his perspective, the referee's hand took an eternity to strike the mat. 2. The bell rang. Everyone in the arena fell quiet. Tyson opened his eyes, ready to celebrate, only to hear over the arena speakers. "The time limit has expired. This match is a draw." The ending to the match was seen by over 1 trillion people across the galaxy. Tyson couldn't believe the number when he woke up to the news. He didn't quite know how to react. On the one hand, it was the hardest fought match of his career. Going the distance was a noteworthy accomplishment, and he was thrilled it got that much recognition. On the other hand, over 1 trillion people watched him fail to win. Tyson wasn't alone in his frustration. Those in attendance almost destroyed the arena in the aftermath, demanding more time to finish the match. It just wasn't possible, though. Neither of the combatants had it in them to keep fighting. They hadn't finished a mere wrestling match. They had survived an all-out war. Their injuries were so severe that both of them needed to be carried out of the stadium by medics. Tyson vaguely remembered this. His memory became a blurry haze after everything ended. He was always astounded by the effects of adrenaline. During a match, it was easy to ignore the pain and keep going due to all the excitement. The next day, however, was always a different story. Tyson paid dearly for his recklessness whenever he went too far. Thankfully, he had access to alien medicine this time around. Their non-addictive painkillers and rejuvenation tanks made the recovery a lot smoother than he was used to. By the end of the following day, he was already in somewhat decent shape. "Still exhausted and a little sore, but otherwise okay. How are you, pal?" shouted Vincent McMiller, strutting into the hospital room. His voice never went much lower than a yell. Tyson was always astonished at how muscular Vincent was, considering his age. Behind him stood Paul Hedud Hertzley, his right-hand man and son-in-law. The slightly younger, but more muscular man went on to say, "Do you really have to be so loud? We're in a hospital. Please." "Bah. These aliens have been jerking us around for too long." "Fuck their comfort." I was saying it for Tyson's sake. Vincent turned his head at the wrestler. "You don't mind, do you?" Tyson opened his mouth to answer, but it seemed to be a rhetorical question. Vincent was already talking ahead. "So anyway, we have much to discuss. I want to expand my company, and I'd like to offer you a contract for a main event spot." Tyson squinted, confused. "Really? Something wrong?" asked Paul. "I mean, I'm honored, but—" "I didn't win, is that okay?" Vincent burst with laughter. "Are you kidding me? The entire galaxy is begging for a rematch." His red mechanical eye started twitching with a whir. "You're gonna draw me a fortune, pal." Unless, added Paul, playing coy. You don't think you can beat him? Tyson narrowed his eyes, suddenly fierce. I'm in. That's the spirit, said Vincent, patting him a little too hard on the back. Nobody in that room knew the magnitude of what they were about to do. The fight didn't just cement humanity's place in the universe. It inspired thousands of different species throughout the galaxy to give wrestling a shot. Most of them didn't think it was possible to compete with a bully, but seeing Tyson made them question that assumption. Wrestling entered a new age of unprecedented popularity from that day onwards, reaching bigger heights than ever before, and thus the legendary Interstellar Wrestling Alliance was born.